let us talk about blood and guts, or the dance off, or the bed of nails, or any other chaotic stuff that took place on this show. What a schizophrenic show. My goodness, this show was straight out of the loony bin. Oof. Anyway, before we really get into the show, this is 3Con Commentaries, and I am your host, MagMongoSlade. We're going to talk about Tony Khan doing, he had a couple of things, because he did a scrum or a Q&A before the Ring of Honor show. Oh yes, there's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, if you didn't notice, which you probably seen, if you weren't paying attention, what the Ring of Honor show's main event might be. It might be Pac and Claudio. Uh-oh. But let's talk about these two tidbits that he discussed in these Q&As. He says, one, this is from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, says, Khan says, expanding the pay-per-view calendar has been a positive for other companies in the past. They have talked to Warner Bros. Discovery about expanding the pay-per-view calendar, and everyone thinks it would be, quote, revenue positive. It's something he has given a lot of consideration to. We talked about this before, that it depends on what kind of expansion he's talking about here. If they're going to continue selling pay-per-views for $50 or $60, you can't do one a month. You can forget it. You're going to have diminishing returns. Right now, I think they do 4. Maybe they can get away with 6. I don't know. Right now, they've been doing 1 a quarter, but it has kept their TV pretty fresh because they, do occasional big shows. You're going to cut into that if you're doing pay-per-views. You're also going to increase your cost because you're going to want to run bigger buildings for your pay-per-views like Wembley Stadium or Arthur Ashe or something like that. I think it depends, but he has to find a price point that makes sense, and he's got to be realistic about how he could diminish the buys for his original 4 pay-per-views. For instance, putting All In near All Out really doesn't make much sense because All Out is a big show. It's basically, as far as I know, it was their WrestleMania, wasn't it? Or was Double or Nothing their WrestleMania? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that goes. But you would think All In being so close to All Out would be bad. It would be bad for All In as well. Because if All In now is going to be the WrestleMania and we're going to run the biggest building possible in Wembley Stadium and stuff like this, then you've damaged the other brands for this All In show. But it might be worth it because if All In is considered sort of the blueprint for AEW, then you might want that brand in order to operate. So it depends on what the expansion looks like. Maybe it goes from 4 to 6 or 4 to 5. But you can't say, well, it worked for companies in the past because it's not the past. When WWE went to doing a pay-per-view a month, they dropped the price point. The WrestleMania was, I think, $25, maybe $40. And then you had the in your house shows which were less than $20, and they were like $19.99 or something like that. So if you're going to offer up some in your house style shows, then I could see why you would want to do that. At a lower price point, $20, $30, you might be able to get away with that. But a full price $50 pay-per-view, you can forget it. You're asking for a lot from this audience, and especially since this audience, I don't know what the turnover rate is. For instance, if 100, I think it's 100,000, maybe 140,000, 150,000 buys or something like that is about the average for an AEW show. They get about 850,000 views. So that means their cash conversion rate is whatever that would be. It'd be simple division, but I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to do the division. But, so I don't know. But that's, it's interesting, but it all depends on what the increase is going to be. Now, the second thing is what's got so many people quaking in their boots. Tony Khan was asked about his interest in a third hour of Dynamite. Khan takes a long pause and says, it's an interesting question. He can't comment on whether they will do more 3-hour blocks in the future, but they found a good weekly rhythm, but how those are allocated are to be discussed. So sounds to me like he doesn't want to do 3 hour Dynamites, because that would mean that the people are going to be in the building for over 5 hours. Because Dynamite is already long, because they do pre-show matches. Then Dynamite is 2 hours. Dynamite is 2 hours, and then Rampage is afterwards. So that's already a long night for the fans. If you got 3 hour Dynamites and then you're still taping Rampage afterwards, oof. If you have a 3 hour Dynamite, you don't even need Rampage, if you're being honest. I don't suggest 3 hour Dynamites. I'm not even one of these people now that I'm saying, that Raw shouldn't be 3 hours. To be quite honest, I'm almost at the point that wrestling shows don't even need to be 2 hours. I'm kind of, I think as I get a little bit older, I'm kind of like, you can watch most of these shows in an hour if you cut out a lot of the fluff. A lot of these shows could be done in an hour, and it'd be a very good wrestling show. It'd be fantastic, if we're being honest, if it was only an hour. But with it being 2 hours, it's, has an opportunity to screw up a lot more. With it being 3 hours, it's virtually unbearable, especially with all the commercials and everything. Gee whiz, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if we had all of these commercials. Whew, that sucks. That sucks. All right, one more thing for AEW, but this is not really Tony Khan related. It's not really got anything to do with anybody within AEW. It has to do with Freddie Prinze Jr., this very famous dipshit. He said, I believe on his podcast or in an interview, that AEW are more willing to give people chances than WWE. Okay, so he says, quote, they definitely give a more consistent push to talent than WWE. We may feel they push the wrong person sometimes, but they're consistent with it. If they say, hey, we're going to give you a shot, you're getting a real shot. And if you mess up, that's okay. You're going to get it right next week. And in WWE, if you mess up, that's it. Your story's over, period. It's literally end of story. Now, I don't want to be too negative, because there is some good examples of AEW not giving up on guys. And Daniel Garcia is one of those guys. However, that means how plus ever equals however Action Andretti. All right. The Top Flight. Private Party. So that's what, 5 people right there that were, they were getting consistent pushes, and then that was over. no push no more. Scorpio Sky, Miro, Wardlow, Hobbs. We're almost at 10 now. Lance Archer. How about that one? Santana and Ortiz. How about those guys? There has been numerous people that AEW has sort of teased as future champions, or, guys who are going to be on the upswing, and it didn't quite work out. Sure, they stick with their pillars, Sammy Guevara, Jungle Boy, and they keep giving those guys opportunities. There's guys who are politically connected who continue to get opportunities, but there's a lot of people in AEW who are supposed to be like the next big thing, and now they're either not featured on the show or they're pushed down the card. I mean, Brian Pillman Jr., Big Swole, Fuego del Sol. There's been quite a few people that they've tried to push, and they just kind of gave up on them. Either they forgot, or they didn't get over, or whatever the case may be. And I think it's consistent with a wrestling company to give somebody a shot. And if they do screw it up, say, hey, look, there's a lot of other people that are chomping at the bit for this opportunity. How many chances could you possibly have? I do believe you should get more than one, but it depends on how badly you screw it up, But it's favoritism, as usual. Some people get more chances than others. There have been guys in WWE who, they were getting pushed and they got busted for weed, like Jake Hager. He got busted for weed one time. All of a sudden, he got pushed down the card. Meanwhile, a guy like Randy Orton could piss dirty 4 times. And people are kind of like, oh, well, that's just Randy. Then there is guys like Scorpio Sky that no matter how many times you reboot this video game system, it ain't going to work. It's still an old series. It's an old console. Nobody wants to play this anymore. So And, Wardlow, same thing. You keep taking him off TV, giving him different managers, giving him different people with him. It's just not working. So sometimes tenacity is a good thing because you're so serious about somebody that you want them to make it. But also tenacity could be a bad thing because you end up producing a lot of bad television, trying to force people onto the audience. But ultimately, I don't really think that he's that right. I think that it's kind of 50-50. For every Wheeler Yuta in AEW where nobody likes this guy, he doesn't get a reaction, but they continue to push him, there's, again, an Action Andretti or a Private Party or a Top Flight or somebody like that who they promise the world to them. And I know Top Flight shouldn't really be considered because they keep getting injured, but that's just one of the many options that you got out there of guys who should have been pushed to the top before all the injuries and was sort of seen as a top tag team. But, even when they return, it's just Rampage or Ring of Honor, and that's it for them. Now, that was a good segue into the start of the show, which features two guys AEW has been insisting are top stars. Jack Perry versus Hook. Jack Perry did exactly what I've always been saying when it comes to turning heel, and that is take away everything that the people liked. His theme song, they let it play a little bit, then they got rid of it. His hair is not wet, it's also darker. I'm not sure if he's dyeing his hair now or what. He grew a beard, he changed his trunks. Just about everything about Jack Perry has changed. Jungle Boy is no more. There is no more Jungle Boy. So that's a positive. He is completely changing who he is. Good. That's what you should do when you turn heel. You should strip away all the things that the people liked, especially if you were a beloved babyface. Next thing to discuss, this theme song. Apparently it's Beethoven. This is not it. It doesn't fit his gimmick. It doesn't fit the character. It doesn't fit the look. It doesn't fit the profile that he's going for. The video had him burying somebody alive and then getting in a limousine. If he was going to wear like those white Mickey Mouse gloves or something like that to the ring and be like a Hunter Hearst Helmsley kind of character, then maybe Beethoven would work. Or if you were going to be like Gunther, then maybe, some classical music might work. But this guy, it doesn't come across as being like classical music. It doesn't fit, so they're going to have to come up with something else. Maybe this was just just walk out to this for now, but whatever. Hook came out, and he has a new tattoo right on his breadbasket. And I'm saying to myself, these young boys, man, they never stop making bad decisions. He's walking around with anime hair and a tattoo in the middle of his stomach. I'm sorry, not his stomach, but like his breadbasket. Let's go call it the breadbasket. All right. The match, let's see. I liked Hook's punches. I just did not like how Jack Perry was selling them. He looked like he was actually going for it with the punches. They were tight. He was up close, body punches. Outside of just covering his body, Jack Perry was not sure how to sell them. They didn't do a good job of establishing any real heat in the match, as far as I'm concerned. They kept it pretty 50-50. Jack Perry would fight back, Hook would fight back almost immediately. When it comes to Jack Perry, they didn't give you opportunity to really let it sit and give you an idea of what was going to happen. There was an overhead T-bone suplex off the apron onto the floor, and I was like, oh my Jesus. I thought Jack Perry was hurt, legit. It was a shocking spot. It was pretty crazy. Got to give them credit for doing it. I probably would not have allowed them to do this in the first match on the show, but okay, this is AEW. They're going to do their thing. Besides, I've seen a lot of people talk about, Dominic Mysterio, he dropped Wesley on his head. I'm like, yeah, he did it by mistake, though. Like, Wesley probably over-rotated and Dominic lost him. When these guys are throwing each other on purpose and landing weird, that's a little bit different. And a botch is supposed to look like a botch, and botches are dangerous. When you do dangerous shit on purpose, that's a little bit different. Anyway, we got two referee interactions in this match. One was Jack Perry covering the referee so he could do the low blow. The second was a ref bump, which led to him hitting Hook with the title and actually winning after that. A lot of people were very upset. I don't think anybody, I know the crowd booed a lot, but who didn't see this coming? Everybody pretty much saw this part coming. So this is Hook's first defeat, and now Jack Perry is the 6th FTW champion. Let's see if I can do all the FTW champions off the top of my head. Taz, Sabu, Jack Perry, Ricky Starks, Hook. There's one missing. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know who is the 6th one. Oh, Brian Cage. Okay, yeah, so it was Brian Cage. Okay, so that was 6. The match was okie dokie. It was the longest match I've ever seen Hook in. Not exactly a masterclass in heel work from Jack Perry, but it was better than usual. And so it was okay. He's just getting started. I guess he'll get into the role a little bit. He does a good job of interacting with the fans finally. Like he turned heel and found out that the fans actually exist. And so now he's interacting with them, which is what he should have been doing as a babyface too, instead of, just trying to be a work guy. Okay, Taz. Taz was amazing though, because Taz was very upset that his son lost, especially since his son cheated and his son lost a family heirloom. And when they did the next segment where Jericho was in the restaurant with Don Callis, and they were talking about just a super secret meeting, and they came back to the desk, Taz said, "I don't really want to be on camera right now." I really don't want to be on camera right now. And he was sitting there looking very frustrated, constipated, miserable. I was like, okay, it makes sense. Taz is daddy. He's still daddy. I like it. Taz, still daddy. All right. So let's talk about this Chris Jericho secret meeting with Don Callis, because it led to Jericho and Don Callis showing up later at the arena together. They're cracking jokes. They're having fun. Nothing outside of that really furthered the story. So there was still no answer about whether Jericho is joining Don Callis. We just see two old friends hanging out. And that could be nothing, but it could also be something. Dun, dun, dun. So that was the only progress in the Don Callis story with Jericho, is that they've been spotted in public together. Like you spot celebrities in public together. Oh no, we saw a rapper and R&B singer in a restaurant together. They must be fucking. So that's kind of how everybody thinks now. All right, so we get some MJF and Adam Cole shenanigans, and that's exactly what it was this week. Absolute shenanigans. First, Adam Cole wants MJF to face his fears, which are poor people and spicy food. So they go to a Chinese restaurant in Boston to have spicy chicken, and they both are like drinking the water, and MJF is telling the story of how he slammed Big Bill. But the thing is, he's telling the story like he's Hulk Hogan. Like there's 93,000 people in the Calgary Dome in Saskatoon or whatever, and just absolutely ridiculous. It's funny. And Adam Cole is clearly bored by MJF continuously telling this story of how he slammed Big Bill. So they eat hot food, even though Adam Cole promised that it wouldn't be hot. Ended up being a lie, and MJF's head almost exploded. He looked like a prune in the face. I don't know how they managed to do that. They were sweating and breathing like dogs. It was pretty funny. So from there, they end up getting served 100% alcohol, which was to wash down the spicy food. Now, this is the part where I raised my eyebrow. Like if you had some really, really hot chicken and then you followed it with some alcohol, bro, no, you wouldn't even be able to stand your own throat and face. I'm sorry. You drink. There's some stuff that is 100 proof. If you drink that stuff, man, you're out of here. All right, you're out of here. And especially if you mix that shit with some heat. Oh, buddy, you gonna want to rip your own skin off your face. There's no good idea. So they start talking about how the waiter reminds them of Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia, but they didn't explain why. So They're buddies. They talk about double clothesline. Everything is going to work out. So then they do a backstage segment where they talk about their chemistry is like lightning in a bottle. And MJF says that plan A is double clothesline. Ain't no plan B. That's like Sammy Guevara and his lame wife. So then they each have gifts for the other, which is matching trunks MJF got for them. Matching jackets is what Adam Cole got for them. And he got them another secret gift. MJF comes out. Adam Cole comes out to a mixture of the Adam Cole MJF theme. The crowd is rocking at this point. The crowd is digging this. And MJF has picked Adam Cole up and everything's working out. They did the big entrance and everything. It was fantastic. So then the match starts. Ding, 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 bell rings. MJF immediately starts mocking Daniel Garcia's dance, which I'm going to give Daniel Garcia some credit for getting the dance over, because now people actually think the dance is entertaining, which is, goes back to Paul Heyman's old saying that if you do something enough, it'll eventually get over. And this was so awkward and so weird that it ended up working. So it ended up getting over. So MJF is now doing it. And it turns into a dance battle between MJF and Daniel Garcia, in which they're both pelvic thrusting at each other. I'm looking at this just dumbfounded that MJF is involved with this, but I shouldn't have been, because he did La Dinner Debonair. I forgot all about that until the dance sequence actually happened. MJF gets out of the ring, goes over to the mixing board, and plays some music, but it also turned down the lights. Then he dared Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara to dance, to which they do. They're doing all sorts of dancing, and the camera angles is cutting, and it's like, it's just a lot of stuff going on. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, I cannot wait to see what the reaction of everybody, like, I have my reaction is a little bit muted, because I wasn't offended. I also just thought it was inappropriate. Like, it was completely not necessary in this match. It came across as being extremely random, but it didn't piss me off. It wasn't like they're mocking the business. Oh, I was just kind of like, wow, we're taking it there. Like, we're going full variety show. They're going full Monday Night Raw, and they're going even beyond Monday Night Raw. So they do the dance battle. MJF is out there dancing, and then he coaxes Adam Cole into dancing, and Adam Cole is dancing. Then MJF turns the music off, so Cole is continuing to pelvic thrust even when the music is not there. So that was funny. And then they got into the regular match, which they did very little in this match that would be considered big, but because MJF and Adam Cole is so over, it didn't matter. MJF did a tope suicida at the urging of Adam Cole. And Adam Cole even helped him by opening the ropes. And the crowd chanted, "Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit." So, at the very least, the crowd was with it. At the very least, the crowd was with them the entire time, even including the dance battle. The crowd was there. I was not for the dance battle. I was not for this match because I don't really like Sammy Guevara or Daniel Garcia. But I do love the oddball tag team, and it almost always works. As I was watching this match and seeing how over they were in the audience, I was saying to myself, like, bro, when does the oddball tag team doesn't work? Just about every time you do the oddball tag team, it works. Almost every time, especially if the characters are clearly delineated, it works. Almost every single time. And this is a really good example of how you could do it quick. Now, they did it a little quick when it comes to MJF and Adam Cole, and the audience bought into it very quickly. But usually you have to put some time in to get this team over so big. But the crowd was there. The crowd wanted these two guys together. They end up winning with a double clothesline onto Daniel Garcia. It looked terrible, by the way. But it was the power of friendship. 1, 2, 3. Adam Cole, MJF win. They win the blind eliminator tournament. Garcia and Guevara, they were being consoled by Chris Jericho, and they both just ignored him and walked past him, which was another storyline element about the Jericho Appreciation Society. Not exactly appreciation Chris Jericho right now. So, in the ring, MJF and Adam Cole are very excited. They're dancing around. Everything's working out. Everything's going great. And then, out of nowhere, here comes FTR. And they're out there just to be bald in hair. They're just looking at these guys. And everybody's jaw-jacking, and it's taking too long. It's eating up a lot of time. Ultimately, Dax and MJF just, keep having this staring contest, and they're circling each other and everything. FTR here looked like he wanted to get out of there so badly. It seems to me like FTR Ball just drags hair around. Like, he must have put that dude on a leash. Because FTR here clearly he was outside of the ring. And FTR Ball was still in the ring circling MJF. Like they're about to have a match or something like this. And I'm like, I know FTR here to be like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I make a mistake and leave the ring early? Like, what's going on here? Anyway, FTR Bald had a message for Tony Khan, but I didn't hear what it was. It said something about next time, blah, 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 blah. We're the champs. And I was like, okay. So, after that, MJF is celebrating with the audience. Adam Cole picks up the world title, and he's coveting the world title. He's looking at it, stroking it lovingly, holding it close to his breast. MJF turns around, sees this, snatches the belt, like, what are you doing? What were you doing? And he's mad, like legit angry. And Adam Cole's like, you're the world champion. I was handing it to you. And then MJF was like, oh, okay. The crowd's chanting, hug it out, hug it out. So they hug. And that was the end of their segment. But I think they're showing you now that Adam Cole is going to turn on MJF. And that's going to turn MJF babyface. So why would they do that? I thought they were going to turn Adam Cole in this match. Because when Adam Cole was egging MJF to do the tope suicida, he was standing in the corner. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, MJF is going to run, and then Adam Cole's going to super kick him right in the face. And then that's just going to be like the end of it. But when he actually let him do it, I was like, okay, so they turn it on Saturday, because that's when the match is. So they're doing a good job here. I have to give them some credit. They telling the story throughout the show. They built this bond of friendship between Adam Cole and MJF, but it's completely and totally disingenuous. It's disingenuous on both parts, because both of them are going too hard, too fast to be friends. And no real friend is gonna go this hard this quickly, So clearly they're both full of shit. So it's all gonna be about who's gonna turn on who first. My money is on Adam Cole turning on MJF first, and him saying he did it before MJF got to him, and then MJF of course playing it off with his victim narrative, because MJF always has a victim narrative, and this is gonna be like origin story 4080. But I'm interested. They got me. This is good episodic storytelling. You start off with these guys not being friends. They don't want to be partners. Couple of weeks later, they're best buds. They got mixed themes. They're wearing the same trunks. They're on the same page. It would have taken a little bit more time, but other than that, they did a really good job with this. And the crowd reaction has proven that storylines work and people will invest in them. Even if you do stupid shit like dance breaks in the middle of a match, people are with it because, well, they're just interested in the characters involved. They really don't care what the characters do at this point. They're just interested in the characters and what's going to happen. That dance break was something else, though, dog. I'm not even going to hold you up. It was terrible dancing. And then you had Sammy Guevara. He did his pose where he lays down and with his legs, and then goddamn Daniel Garcia put his head in between Sammy Guevara's legs. Yes, I said a man put his head between another man's legs. Pause. He put his head between another man's legs. Pause. He put his head between another man's legs. Pause. Okay. But it happened. It happened exactly as I said it. He danced and then he put his head between his legs. Pause. Next, Best Friends, Darby, Nick Wayne, and Chris Statlander all had a promo segment with Renee Young. And this all this, the point of this was so Renee could tell you everything that's going on here between these characters. It literally meant nothing. Darby Allin said he had a question for a friend. He wants to ask Orange Cassidy for a favor, and he says he's got a good buddy by the name of AR Fox. And he wants AR Fox to have an international championship match. And then Orange Cassidy like, we're cool, so I'll do it. And that was it. That was pretty much the segment. Nick Wayne didn't want to put his hand in the group with Best Friends because apparently he's 18, but he wasn't born yesterday, so he doesn't want to be seen as a lame. You got this guy who gets rides from his mom to work, so no, we're not gonna play that game. So Nick Wayne has more sense than a little bit. Good. Now, AR Fox, for Christ's sake, this guy has yet to win a single match on television. How is every match this guy has a championship match? How could it be? How could it be? I thought when Darby Allin was talking that he was going to ask for Nick Wayne to have a championship match. It still wouldn't have made sense because Nick Wayne just lost last week. But for him to be like, my buddy AR Fox, you know, he's got like 100 championship matches. He's got like endless title matches, you know. Why don't he waste one of them on you? I'm like, what the hell? Nobody wanted to watch AR Fox versus Orange Cassidy. Why would I want to see that? What about that is appealing to anybody? Why would you want to watch that? It's horrible. No. Just get rid of this. Stop it. End the segment. Okay. A shark appeared behind the commentary booth. It was the shark for Shark Week. And there was a mascot shark, and Taz is like, get away from me, shark. What's wrong with you? Look at all your teeth. What's wrong? Why are you outside of the water? Why are you bothering me the day my son lost? Get away from me. And it was over. The dance battle, the Chinese food stuff, there was a lot of shenanigans on this show. The dancing shark behind these guys, absolute chaos. What a schizophrenic show. So up to this point, we've heard silly ring music for Jack Perry. We've gotten a couple of silly segments from Cole and MJF. We had a dance battle. We got pelvic thrusting, just repeated pelvic thrusting. We got a friendly challenge on somebody else's behalf. And we haven't even gotten to the main event yet. And we got a dancing shark. And we got Jericho and Don Callis, you know, hanging out in restaurants eating. You know, Don Callis, fresh off getting his shit kicked in Mexico, which was humorous, by the way. Pretty humorous at a photographer. They said the guy wasn't smartened up. What do you mean the photographer wasn't smartened up? Why do you have to smarten up a photographer? Where is your security? I could have told you, Don Callis, you was going to get your shit kicked in Mexico, but you ain't asked me. That's all. I could have told you it was going to happen. It's Mexico. You know, silver or lead. Pistolero. You know, Antonio Banderas. El Mariachi. Yeah, you already know how this works. You need to watch some TV. Watch a movie, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. You should learn how it goes down there. They ain't fucking around with you, Baldy. You know, they going to split your shit wide open to the white meat. And then they're going to turn into a vampire or something like that. I watch too many movies. That's all I know about Mexico. Okay, so I needed to do something. Because Blood and Guts was the main event of the evening. A match that started at 9 o'clock. So that means 1 hour of match. Oh, God. Why are we being punished with these matches being so long? And this one is really, really long. And it's structured to be long. Now, for those of you who are new listeners, because I do have new listeners all the time, I will say this. I dislike war games. I dislike the war games concept. Why? Simple. This match cannot end until all 10 people are in the ring. That means, especially if they do the 5-minute intervals or 3-minute intervals or whatever, you have to wait for everybody to get in the ring before somebody can win. That kills the drama. There needs to be some drama. Part of what makes wrestling, similar to boxing and similar to MMA, more so than football and basketball, is that football and basketball, there is a set amount of time for every single game, and you will play every second of that game, period. Boxing, it could be 12 rounds or it could be 4. It could be 2 rounds or it could be 8. You don't know when the fight is going to end. When UFC is scheduled for 5, but it can go 1. It could go 90 seconds. It can go 14 seconds. It could go the whole 5 rounds. It could go 4.5. You could create that Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen type of situation. You can do a lot of different things. In pro wrestling, however, since you control the finish, when you book a match to be 1 hour, you are telling the audience, don't bother with at least the first 30 minutes. Just forget it. The first 30 minutes don't matter. The first 30 minutes is just warm up. Half the goddamn match is just a prologue to it, and nothing happens. Nothing happens in the first 30 minutes of these matches. And Blood and Guts was no real difference. Claudio came in first. He's the workhorse for his team. Kenny Omega is the workhorse for his team, so he starts it. Good choices to start the match. These guys, again, are the workhorses of their team. They're the guys who can go in there and do an hour. But then you just have people just doing generic moves to each other, suplexes and punches and kicks and bouncing each other off the cage until Moxley comes in. Now, it didn't take that long for Moxley to come in because Moxley was the third person for his team. But he's the one who brings in a fork because he apparently watched Abdullah the Butcher on Dark Side of the Ring and said, I could do that. I could do the fork. Fork ain't nothing. Ain't no big deal. I do the fork. And then he brings in forks. And then he has broken glass and a 5-gallon bucket. And I'm just like, oh, Jesus, we're already in for something. We're in for it. The last two was, of course, Takeshita and Kota Ibushi. So Ibushi comes in and he put on some weight. He's put on some weight. He's not as defined as he used to be. He looks a little chubbier in the face. I know he's been sitting out for a while. I don't know how long it was. Was he out 2 years or 18 months or something? I know he had an injury and then he had all of the strife with New Japan. So he was sitting at home for a while and he's, getting up there in age. But Kota Ibushi, he looked a little chubbier than usual. Like he wasn't fat, clearly. But when you look at Kota Ibushi maybe 3 years ago, he was slim, villainous, This guy is a little chunkier, a little chunky Bushi, chubby Bushi. Okay, so at this point, Moxley brings out a bed of nails, and I'm like, what is happening? And why is it happening? So he drop kicks Kenny Omega into the bed of nails as they lay into the corner. Omega, of course, sells it. Then he body slams Kenny Omega into the bed of nails. And I'm saying to myself, this is clearly not real, because if this was the case, Omega would be bleeding a lot more than he actually was. So they must have coated the nails with something that would, help with the puncture wounds. When Ibushi comes in, he starts throwing these straight right hands. I mean, they looked brutal. Like they looked like legit straight right hands. They looked pretty good. And then he did a ground and pound on somebody that looked like absolute garbage. And I'm like, what is going on? How can he throw a punch in this situation, but then he's a different situation? All of a sudden, he can't throw punches anymore. Oh, my God. So Moxley ends up getting kicked by Ibushi onto the bed of nails. And then Ibushi did a standing moonsault onto the bed of nails. And I'm just like, oh, my Lord. Wheeler Yuta and Matt Jackson, I think that's Matt Jackson. If it's not, then it is for the purpose of this conversation. They got on top of the cage and they started doing what they call locomotion, which is the rapid succession of Northern Light suplexes on top of the cage. And they were just on top of the cage. There was no reason for them to go up there. They just went up there. At one point, Matt Jackson, whichever Jackson that was on top of the cage, started pouring thumbtacks from the top into the ring so Pac could take a bump on the thumbtacks. This spot I actually did love. Pac climbing the cage and then did the double foot stomp through the table. That was a legit awesome spot. I like that. That was good. I also like the spot where Pac countered the one-winged angel into the brutalizer. I thought that was a great spot too. That looked very cool. Unfortunately, we knew that Kenny Omega wasn't going to surrender in this match. And I think at this point, they finally starting to try to win. I think the first person to try to win was Matt Jackson by putting Pac in a Boston Crab. And that was like 40 minutes into the match, for Christ's sake. All right, so at about 9:59, I looked at my clock. So this match has already been on for 59 minutes. Claudio and Pac start getting into it. They're shoving each other. They're getting in each other's faces. Then Pac, he's like, screw you guys. I'm going home. Then he goes outside, gets the bolt cutters, cuts the chain, and leaves. He just leaves the Blackpool Combat Club. So as Claudio is like, what's going on, brother? And then Moxley's like, what's going on? Like, everybody's in chaos. Wheeler Yuta is getting absolutely murdered on the other side of the ring. They're hitting this guy with everything imaginable. They clubbed him over the head with all types of finishers, and they jumped all on top of his body and everything. They're just beating this guy damn near to death. At some point, Moxley is chained to the middle of the rope, so he can't move. And then Don Callis comes down the ramp. He waits for Takeshita. So Takeshita leaves the ring. So Takeshita takes off. So this leaves the Blackpool Combat Club in a 3-5 advantage, while Wheeler Yuta is getting absolutely shit stomped in this situation. He ends up getting strangled with a chain until he submits. So the Golden Elite win the match, while Jon Moxley sat there and watched and was disappointed in how quickly this thing dissolves right in front of him. The moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is the power of true friendship. That, the Elite are really friends. Everybody is friends with everybody. It's all great. While the Blackpool Combat Club, they were bounded by hatred. They were bounded by dislike. The only reason they got together is because each one of them hated the Elite in his own way for his own reasons. When that no longer helped out for him, he took off. Pac, once he started realizing, hey, I don't like these guys. They're not my friends. I'll leave them. I don't care if they win or lose. I'm out of here. Then Takeshita was like, I just wanted to beat up on Kenny Omega. I did it. I don't really care if we win or lose. Don Callis was like, now is not the time for us. We need to take off. So he leaves. And it wasn't a legitimate team. It was the power of friendship that actually won in the end. The Elite stick together. They're good buddies. They're best friends. And that's really what wins in the end. This is like Steven's Universe or something like that. The pro wrestling show. It's a perfectly legitimate story to have. That the power of friendship is the reason why you win. It's a perfectly legitimate story. And it tells the story throughout the evening. That, Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia weren't really friends. They didn't like each other when the tournament started. They still were not on the same page, as the tournament went forward. But Adam Cole and MJF became legitimate friends throughout their time together in the tournament, and the power of friendship is why they won. So it's the power of friendship. That's what it's about here on Wednesdays, baby. It's all about friends. That's the theme of the evening. You had best friends and Chris Statlander and Nick Wayne and Darby and all of them backstage talking about their best friends. You got Don Callis and Chris Jericho going out to dinner because they're best friends. So that was the theme throughout the episode of Blood and Guts, was friendship. If you've got a friend, you've got a bond that can never be broken, a bond that is worth more than gold. And you know what? I ain't mad at him, but I did not like this match. The only thing on this show that didn't have any type of friendship angle to it was the Britt Baker beating up on that Jabbarella who was draped in Pride gear. That was the only thing that had anything to do with friendship. Everything else on this show was all about friendship and doing people favors and everything. It was a kinder, gentler Dynamite, which makes the show very schizophrenic again, because it's about friendship and it's about appreciating each other and appreciating the history you have with somebody. And at the same time, there's dance-offs, there's beds of nails, there's broken glass, there's guys going out to dinner and spending bro time together, eating with General Chow's chicken or something like that. There's all kind of stuff going on here. And you're like, wow, it's really for all seasons. They're trying to appease everybody. But this was quite a bit a filtered show, because it's going to have a lot of stuff on it that you're not going to like. You know, the dance off, probably, I think that pissed off a lot of people. People are like, if this had took place on Raw, it would have been the worst thing ever. But then you have the AEW fans who are like, oh, you were supposed to cringe. That's the point of the MJF babyface thing, is he's being super cringe and disingenuous. I'm like, okay, that's one thing, but that would be if he was dancing in the ring. Then people would be looking at him like he's ridiculous. But why is Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia participating? Why is Adam Cole just participating? You know, that doesn't make sense. And then you have, in the later part of the show, not only do you have a dance battle on the show, so how can you have goddamn Chikara comedy stuff on the same show as hardcore blood and guts ECW style nonsense where guys are falling on beds and nails? And I know this is supposed to be like the Attitude Era, right? Where you have Too Cool and they're doing their dancing segments in the early part of the show, and then in the main event, Stone Cold Steve Austin is bleeding and falling all over himself and getting choked by the wires and everything. I get it. But this is not that. And it can't be that. A lot of you AEW fans, you want it to be one thing. It's distinctly another thing. All right? You want it to be one way. It's literally the other way. Your show makes no sense. Now, I did have fun with the story of Blood and Guts, you know, the friendship element, no honor amongst thieves, these guys stabbing each other in the back. I enjoyed that part of the match. But generally speaking, I don't like War Games matches. I think they're stupid because you spend most of the match not really trying to win the match. You're just fighting for survival at some point. The tournament match, after the dance off, I really didn't take the match seriously. I don't see how anybody could have. And Hook and Jack Perry, Jack Perry just doesn't got it. Not yet. So that was pretty much the entire show right there. So while I enjoy some of the story elements of the show, which for the first time in a long time, I'm actually enjoying stories that are being presented by AEW. But the matches didn't really get up to par for me because I don't like War Games. In that tag team match, it went out the window when they started dancing. I was just kind of like, all right, we just we're in the middle of this. We're in the eye of the storm. So I will be definitely keeping my eyes and ears peeled, because there's bound to be somebody who's very, very upset about the dancing, especially about MJF dancing. Oh boy. And I think we all know what's going on with that. All right. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought, because you guys have your own opinions. So like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.